And geopolitics is a very cold and cruel business. Countries have been sacrificed, territories have been sacrificed consistently in geopolitics if you're not careful. And Donald Trump will have no hesitation. I mean, as you know, even in his first term, even though South Korea had been a very strong and close ally of the United States, he didn't even consult South Korea when he decided to go to North Korea. That's the kind of person he is. So that may be an asset. But of course, Donald Trump also poses dangers to China. Because, as you know, his Secretary of State in his first term was Mike Pompeo. And after Mike Pompeo stepped down, I understand he came to Taiwan to give a speech here. And in that speech, he recommended that United States should recognize Taiwan as an independent country. Now, Mike Pompeo is sophisticated enough to understand that that's a declaration of war. I'm surprised he recommended it. But if the United States was to recognize Taiwan as an independent country under Donald Trump, then Taiwan will be at war. So you can see, therefore, Donald Trump, why China may not be too enthusiastic about Donald Trump. Now, in the case of Kamala Harris, clearly she's much more predictable, and you can expect to have a continuation of the policies of the Biden administration towards China. The pressure will be there, but it won't be erratic. It'll be predictable, and China can manage that predictable level of pressure. Kamala will, of course, keep the allies on board. That will be a disadvantage clearly for China. And Kamala, of course, will keep up the pressure on Russia and Ukraine, and she said so in the debate today. So in that sense, she will be just effectively a continuation of Joe Biden, but of course with a lot more energy and drive than Joe Biden had. So you can see from the Chinese point of view, there's no clear preference within Donald Trump and Kamala Harris, and they will live with whoever is elected by the American people. So finally, I see I have about 3-4 minutes left. What should be the wisest thing for Taiwan to do? I think it's extremely important for Taiwan to be aware that at such a dangerous time like this, you got to be very careful with what you do. I know that there are people in Taiwan who believe that what will be good for Taiwan is independence of some kind. That would be dangerous under any circumstances, but it would be especially dangerous at a moment like this. Because if you walk into a room full of gas and you light a spark, you get a major explosion. So people who are pushing for independence have to understand the dangers. And there's also one paradox here. The goal of pushing for independence is to have greater freedom of action, to be able to do more things that you think you can do if you're independent. Effectively, though, if Taiwan pushes for independence, Taiwan is going to become more and more isolated globally. Because right now, one of the great benefits of being a Taiwanese is that you have a passport that is recognized and accepted 150, 160 countries around the world. But just imagine if you push for independence, you force countries to decide, do I want to recognize Taiwan as independent? I guarantee you this. The majority of countries will not recognize Taiwan as an independent country. This is a geopolitical reality. So what you do, therefore, in pushing for independence is to lock yourself up into a small jail and throw the key away. Now, this may be a beautiful island to live in, but your capacity to travel and to engage the world will be diminished, especially now, because it's such a dangerous moment in history. I also know that people here who believe that perhaps you could go to the UN and get some support in some way or another. Having been an ambassador to the UN for over 10 years, I can tell you that UN ambassadors are incredibly astute in their understanding of global geopolitics. They know what needs to be done. And they also know, many of them, if you force them to make a choice between China and Taiwan, there is no choice for them. Their ties with China have gone up by leaps and bounds, right? Take trade between China and Southeast Asia. In the year 2000, trade between US, China and ASEAN was only $40 billion in 2000. By 2022, it had become $975 billion, almost $1 trillion. Southeast Asian countries cannot sacrifice $1 trillion in trade. A country like Brazil, that's far away. It took Brazil 20 years ago, 1 year, to export $1 billion to China. Now it takes Brazil 60 hours to export $1 billion to China. And you're asking the Brazilians, choose. So therefore, it's very important if the people of Taiwan want to preserve the peace that they have had, you must understand what a complex, difficult geopolitical environment is arriving your way. Please be extremely alert. Please be extremely careful, because if you're not, the consequences can be very painful. Thank you.
朋友都知道我是很挑剔的，防晒乳我选 KISS 皇家呵护抗光清爽高防晒凝露，因为它有媲美蓝光神盾的抓藻植萃，保护我在阳光下延缓肌肤老化，维持青春弹力，可以防御工作环境里的3C 商品，各种光源对肌肤的伤害，擦起来清爽不黏腻。我特别喜欢它做到海洋友善，365天，天天抗光抗老化，是我的保养日常。你呢？呵护您，呵护全家人，专属你的 KISS Royal Care 抗光清爽高防晒凝露。